Hey everyone, it's Daniel with Gaming While Bearded, and today we're talking about my top 5 guilty pleasure games. So what do you mean, Daniel, when you're talking about guilty pleasure games? Well, whenever you get into this hobby, or if you do get into the board game hobby, you'll quickly find out that there are certain games that are pretty well known that most hobbyists just kind of push to the side. You know, they're known as games that the mechanisms don't work very well, the theme is kind of lagging, the structure of the game just isn't there, and it's not as good as we once thought it was. A great example of this is Monopoly, right? Almost everyone knows about the game Monopoly, and there are so many versions of Monopoly. But it's really not that great of a game. So let's get some to the table and take a look at what my top 5 games are in this guilty pleasure realm. Once again, these are games that I really enjoy. I want to play them as often as I can, but we really don't play them that much anymore. And even as I go through and I try to cull some of my board game collection because it's getting too large for the house that we're in right now, these are games that are probably going to stay in the collection because they're on this list. So these games are near and dear to my heart, so let's see what those top 5 are going to be. That's right, everybody. My number 5 is Betrayal at House on the Hill. I love this game. I've done other videos in comparison with this one that do Betrayal at House on the Hill against Betrayal Legacy. I understand that you love or you hate this game, and I am very much in the love category. This is a game that my wife got me. It was either for my birthday or Christmas years ago, and this is one of the most played games that our game group gets together and just plans a day around. We played through a lot of the scenarios that come in the base box. There are 50 different horror-themed scenarios that you can play through whenever you're doing this game, and it's different every time. Every game is random. Yeah, I know I've said that some scenarios are wonky, and some of them are, but some are really cool, and the story is really great. The writing could be better. You know, the art could probably be better in the game, but nothing else quite gives me the feel like what Betrayal at House on the Hill does. So let's talk a little bit about this game if you've never seen it before. Betrayal is a horror-themed B-movie game. Okay, you're an explorer that's walking into a haunted house, and you're exploring the house. So you're going to draw tiles as you move throughout. You're going to place those tiles on whatever floor of the house that you're in, and you're going to explore the creepiest house that you'll ever go into. While you're in the house, you're going to encounter events that are going to adjust your stats for your individual players. Your stats, you have physical traits and you have mental traits, and they will increase or decrease throughout the game. You're going to encounter items that are going to help you during your investigation of the house. So there are items that will make you more powerful or will increase certain stats on your character. And then last but not least, you're going to encounter omens that are really bad. But they're things that could also make your character more powerful. But the more omens you find as a group, the more likely you are to start the haunt, which is the second part of the game. So the first part, you're just exploring the house, kind of beefing up your character and setting out the groundwork for what's going to be an epic battle between good and evil. Once the haunt starts, that's when everything changes. That's when you're going to take a look at the Trader's Tome and the Survival Guide, because someone at that table has just gone crazy. And everything turns bad, because then it becomes a struggle between the person who is identified as the traitor and the rest of the heroes. The great thing is you don't know who you are until the haunt begins. And every story is different based on the omen that you find and the room it was found in when the haunt was triggered. And sometimes the person who finds the omen that triggers the haunt, they're the bad person. But sometimes it's totally random. Sometimes you draw tokens and look at them secretly, and whoever has a certain one is the traitor. And it's just very thematic, very interesting, and all of the scenarios bring so much replayability to this game. One of the games that, you know, I got it as a gift, but if I was to buy it, I definitely would have gotten my money's worth out of this box. And it's something that no matter what will probably stay in my collection just because of the memories that I've had. So, number 5 on Gaming While Bearded's guilty pleasure list is Betrayal at House on the Hill. And if you're in the hate camp, I'm sorry, because you're really missing out on some experiences, and I suggest that if you've played a game where you didn't have that much fun, I suggest you play it with a group that's really into it, and I guarantee that you'll have a different experience. My number 5, Betrayal at House on the Hill. Number 4 on the list has to be Risk. I understand that this game is old and there's a lot of better area control games out there that just work so much better than this game. For example, one of my favorite games is Small World, and I think that that area control game is so much better than Risk. But when I look at guilty pleasure games, I think of ones that I've had great experiences with, and those memories just tie me to that game, and it's difficult for me to want to separate with it. I remember playing this game in college with 2 friends and just having the dice on my side for the first time in my life. And as we're chucking those dice, I just couldn't be stopped. It was incredible. It was a wonderful experience, at least for me anyways. And then I remember another time that we were playing with a group of friends. We drove to a friend's house to have dinner, and I took Risk with us. And I used the Australia strategy, where you load up all of your guys in Australia and kind of spread out from there. And it was just a very easy win. Nobody really saw it coming. And it was really fun, once again, just for me, because Risk is one of those games that when you're winning, you love it. And as you kind of get pummeled, it's one of those things that it's just, man, this is never going to end. And I've had those experiences too. But those 2 games that I played were just so much fun, at least for me. It's one of the reasons that I'm really going to look at keeping Risk in my collection. Out of all the games you'll see on this list, if I do end up getting rid of any, it is going to be this. But this Risk actually comes with the mission cards as well. So there are certain cards that you'll get at the beginning of the game where you're trying to accomplish certain objectives so that you can win. So it's not so much about just conquering the world, but it's about focusing on specific actions that you have to do during your turn, which makes the game a little bit more challenging. But a really great game, one that I do enjoy, but I haven't played in a really long time, and that's Risk. My number 3 is Clue FX. Clue FX is my favorite version of the traditional Clue, which once again there are so many different versions of, but this one is staying in my collection no matter what. It is one of the most unique games that I've ever played, and for the time, whenever I got it as a kid, it was one that used some technology that I'd never seen. You had pieces that you could pick up, move to a certain area of the board, push down, and the game would actually talk back to you. They would know where you are, they knew what character you were playing, and you were hunting down different suspects in each room to try to find additional clues. This game also adds in new weapons, new rooms, and new suspects, and as in the old Clue, when you're trying to figure out who killed Mr. Body, well, Mr. Body is officially gone, and you have an entire new person's murder that you're investigating here. You also can't just solve the crime whenever you want. You have to wait till about halfway through the game when Inspector Brown is going to show up, which the game will announce and let you know that he's there, and then you have to locate him on the board before you can actually submit your case. So really interesting, absolutely love this game. It only goes up to 4 players versus original Clue that can play 6. But it's so streamlined and so smooth, it works so well. We're actually going to cut to a short video so I can show you how this game sets up and how the talking mechanisms work. Alright, so here we have a game of Clue FX set up. You have your individual suspect cards over here. Each one of those folders has a clue card located. So during the game, you're going to try to find those characters and see what type of evidence they hold. You have your 4 characters that you can play with in this game. This game does go up to 4 players. You have the confidential case file that shows the actual murder. And then you have this really cool 3D 2-door mansion that's set up over here on the side. These hedges actually have answers that you can that you'll press during the game to give certain responses to the narrator. So let's go ahead and turn this on real quick and kind of see how it works.
Welcome to Clue FX. Please choose your characters.
Okay.
Is Lord Grey
So it'll ask you if someone's playing. You just take the character and push it down on top of the circle.
Glad you could join us. Lord Grey. Is
Lady Lavender
playing?
Lady Lavender is here. We'll just come over and we'll say no.
Is Miss Peach playing?
Miss Peach right here. We'll say sure.
So nice of you to come. Miss Peach. Is Prince Azure playing?
And we'll say no. Prince Azure is not playing.
Lord Grey and Miss Peach. Welcome to Tudor Mansion. Lord Grey, your turn.
So what you'll do is that you'll take your character and you can move anywhere you want to on the board, just as indicated by these circles here. So let's go to the stable.
There are no suspects at the stable.
Oh no, so no one's there, so I can make an accusation or a guess like I would in normal Clue, and then kind of goes around the table to see cards. And you can do some other things, like you can search for additional suspects.
Search and find Mrs. Peacock
Oh.
searching for something.
Oh, you startled me.
Okay.
Miss Peach, your turn.
So when you find a character in a room, you can look at their clue card. So Miss Peach has Mr. Green's card, which means that you know Mr. Green is going to be innocent in this case, but only the character that found Miss Peacock would be able to look at that card, and then you would mark that off on your clue sheet that you're going to have, and you'll do that multiple times. Let's go ahead and turn off this real quick. So that's just a basic overview of the game. So let's get back to the table and we'll continue to talk about it. Highly recommend this game. I haven't seen it out any time recently, but an absolute fantastic time. Really enjoy Clue FX. My number 3 on Gaming While Bearded's Guilty Pleasure list. Hey everyone, Future Daniel here with Gaming While Bearded. I went to a barber shop and my barber decided that it's best to trim a little bit more off than what I actually wanted. So a lot of the beard is gone, but love for board gaming is still here. There's some things that I forgot to talk about with Clue FX that I wanted to bring up. So with Clue FX, my description of it would make it sound like the game runs really smooth, there's no issues or anything with it, and that is definitely not the truth. So when you're looking at Clue FX and you're going through and you have to find all of the suspects in order to get all of the clue cards you need in order to solve the mystery. The problem is that when you're going into these rooms, those characters are going to move throughout all the grounds in the mansion. So we found Mrs. Peacock in the stable during our little test, but Miss Peacock is going to move and you're going to have no idea where she actually goes. Sometimes you're going to see characters that you have to search for, like we did with Mrs. Peacock, in order to find them, and sometimes you won't find anyone. The same thing goes with Inspector Brown. When he shows up, he normally starts at, the mansion, but he moves throughout the grounds, and sometimes you have to search for him in order to find him anywhere. So the game is kind of totally random and makes it really difficult to go through and find everyone that you need to. And if you know what the answer is, and so does someone else, it's a race to see who gets lucky enough to find the inspector. So the game is definitely not without its flaws. So I didn't want you to go through and think that this was a great, amazing, flawless version of Clue, because it definitely has its problems. And I think that whenever I went back and watched the video after I did some editing to it, that definitely wasn't the case. So thank you all very much for this brief interruption. Let's get back to the countdown, and I'll see you again later. My number 2 on the Guilty Pleasure board game list is going to be Titanic the board game. And let me just give you a heads up about this game. It's terrible. The game is not good at all. It's based on an absolutely tragic theme, the Titanic, but the gameplay and the mechanics used in it are just not good. It's roll to move, so you struggle based on what you get from the dice. As a character, you have to collect all of your valuables and belongings. Come here. You have to collect all of your valuables and your belongings before you can get off the boat. So you've got to find your room key so you can get your valuables, and then you've got to go get your passport, then you have to go get your life vest, and then you have to run all the way through the ship and all the stuff on the ship that wants to send you back into the lower decks so that you can get to the lifeboats and get off of the ship. And then first one off the ship wins. It's terrible, but I love it. There's something about the game that is just near and dear to my heart. The first time I ever played it is whenever one of my aunts brought it over to my house when they came to visit. We sat down and my sister and I played it with our cousins, and we were kids, and Roll to Move was one of the only things we really had any experience with, and it was different than what we had normally seen. I guess the cool thing about it is that every character gets their own little deck of what they call gossip cards. So when you land on one of those characters, you pull one of those cards and you have to do whatever it says. And it's kind of thematic in a way that every deck is different for each one of those cards. And the little passports that come with them are actually a pretty cool component. But everything else about the game is just lacking. I haven't found anybody else that actually enjoys this game. My game group has officially told me that we're not playing this anymore, and it's officially retired from our game list. But it's near and dear to my heart for some reason, and in all honesty, sometimes I can't even place it, but I love it, and it's definitely staying with me and in my collection. So that is Titanic, the board game. Do I recommend that you check it out? No, I really don't. But if you ever meet me in real life and you want to try a game, I will pull this out anytime and we can sit down and have a miserable time together while having a great time. That's Titanic, the board game, my number 2. And number 1, the ultimate guilty pleasure game, in my opinion, is Atmosphere, the DVD board game. Wow, this game just blew me away as a kid. I remember seeing commercials for this game, and the gatekeeper just scared the life out of me. But when I finally was brave enough to add it to my board game collection, and we played it, it was so much fun. Yeah, it's another basic game. It's roll to move mechanics. You just go in this circle, you're collecting keys from all these different colored realms. Once you get all of the different types of keys together, you go into the central board to what they call the Well of Fear, and you're supposed to draw your fear out and read it to everyone. And if you do that before time expires, you win the game. Simple, easy. And the best part is the game is guaranteed to end in 49 minutes. Unless you can beat it before then. So everyone is scrambling around the table, chucking dice, trying to get these keys together, trying to avoid the black key, because if you're carrying the black key, you can't win the game, and also throwing out fate and time cards. Some time cards say you have to play at this time or play before this time, and it just means that you can just scream randomly at the group, and if anyone jumps, you get to steal keys from them. All the time, the gatekeeper is interrupting you and throwing all these wrenches into your plans and making life just miserable. It's awesome. So much fun. We've played it so much, though, we've seen almost everything that the DVD can throw at us. It is nice with the DVD because it randomizes every encounter that you'll have with the gatekeeper, unlike the old VHS version, where you kind of knew when it was going to happen. But after you play the game so many times, you just kind of know what's going to happen. But if this is your first time with it, this is an awesome, awesome game. As a matter of fact, it's so awesome, I'm going to show you the DVD intro. Just wait for this and check it out.
I am the gatekeeper, and I am here to make your lives miserable. But I see you're all way ahead of me. I've had pimples with better-looking heads. Before we go any further, let me find out which pathetic worms are challenging me. Not that you offer any real challenge. And Chantraine, the witch. Baron Samadi, the Zop. Elizabeth Bathory, the Van. Gavordan, the Web. Helen, the Potter. Khufu, the Mummy. Very well. You brought me here, so you will play by my rules. Whenever I call on any of you, you will answer, "Yes, my gatekeeper." Who is branded with the highest number? Answer! If you didn't answer, "Yes, my gatekeeper," you can miss a turn, and the others will think you're even more stupid for being a loser before the game even starts. Now, you will all take it in turns to roll both dice.
Now, wasn't that something? I mean, don't play this game if you're sad, because that gatekeeper might just be the one to push you over the edge. It is The game insults you, it makes you feel this big, but when you can win it, you feel great because at the end you're rushing to try to beat this gatekeeper because you hate him and you're encouraging everyone around the table to win at that point. You don't care who it is, as long as the gatekeeper doesn't win the game. My friends and I, when we got to the point where we got tired of just drawing our own fear out of the well of fear in the middle of the board, we made a variant where we would draw each other's fears and we would have to guess who wrote what. And sometimes we were serious and sometimes we were, a little goofy about it, but it made the game ending a little bit more thematic than just drawing your fear out and quote-unquote facing your fear that you have written down on a piece of paper. The components of this game are really great though. I love the little plastic molds that you have for the individual characters. I mean, for this being just a mass-produced kind of shove to big box stores kind of game, they're really nicely done. There's a ton of cards that come with it. The little plastic keys are cool, and you have these little holders that sit in front of you where you can put your keys on, and it kind of hides the color of keys that you have from the rest of your opponents, so they don't know what you have. Because during the game you can duel and steal keys from other players and they have to choose them randomly from you, so you don't want them to pick a color that you only have one of, because you need to get all of those colored keys in order to win the game. And if you're carrying the black key, you want that to blend in with everything else, because like I said, if you have that key, you just can't win the game at all until you give it to someone. So Atmosphere is by far my #1 guilty pleasure game. I would sit down and play this game with anyone, anytime, just because I know when it's going to end, I know that I'm going to have fun with it, I know what I'm getting inside of the box, I know that the mechanisms are just very basic, but the DVD and knowing when that gatekeeper is going to pop up is just very exciting and exhilarating. So once again, I don't know how much this game runs for anymore. I don't know if you can even find it or if they have another version. I would love to see someone like Restoration Games get a hold of this and do something amazing with it, like they've done with other games like Fireball Island. This game right here is fantastic. In my opinion, one of my most favorite games of all time, even though as a board game collector and someone who's really getting into modern day board games, has a very large board game collection, this should probably be something that's not even on my radar and should be one of the first things I throw out the door. But this game will stay with me, even though it's been retired by our board game group, because I know one day I'm going to find someone who wants to play it and I will pull it out of the closet and we will have an amazing time with it. So that's it for Gaming While Bearded's top 5 guilty pleasure board games. I know that everyone kind of has this kind of stuff in their life, whether it's board games or movies or books or action figures or whatever it could be that kind of brings out the dork in you. But for me, these 5 games are just a lot of fun, and I love getting them to the table whenever I can, so that we can just have another good experience like we've had in the past. I hope that you all enjoyed this list. I've got a lot more content that I'm hoping to release in the future. Some other lists, some board game reviews, some playthroughs. I'm hoping to add to our Betrayal Legacy campaign in the future as well, as long as we can get everyone back together again to keep moving through that. But if you like what you see, like the video, subscribe. That way you get notified when more stuff's going to be coming out. I look forward to talking to you again, and we'll see you again next time. I'm Daniel with Gaming While Bearded, and thanks for watching.